Welcome back to the Content Marketing Playbook. I'm your host, Josh Culler. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, do people even know who or what you are? Even if they find you, even if they come across your ad or they get your postcard in the mail or they see your billboard or whatever, do they even know what you are and anything about your industry as a matter of fact? And so I really want to address this because a big problem that I see with people that are doing content marketing is that they're putting content out there and they're using slang and terms in their industry that most people don't know about. So I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the podcast. I would very much appreciate it. If you did that, it would mean the world to me if you found value in this episode. Go back and listen to all the other episodes. This podcast is specifically for content marketing. So we'll talk about marketing. We'll reference marketing as a whole, as the umbrella. But I am creating this podcast specifically for the silo of content marketing because that's what I do. So I do content marketing specifically for people in the real estate investing industry. And so that's what you're going to find here. But even though that's like what I'm siloed into, I talk about content marketing. The principles stay the same no matter what industry you're in. So make sure that you subscribe. But then also, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you found value in this, head back over to there after this episode and leave a review. I would love that if you would do that. And if you have any questions, reach out to me, josh@cullermedia.com. Culler, it's spelled C-U-L-L-E-R. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If there's any specific topics you want me to cover on the podcast, I would be more than happy to do so. So let's talk about this real quick. This is more of a kind of a rant in a way, but it's something that you really need to be thinking about. And that is, do people even know who or what you are? So I'm going to relate this just because, like I said, I work in the real estate investing industry. I'm doing content marketing for real estate investors. And one thing that I've been really talking about lately is people most of the time, when you're marketing to a motivated seller, which is somebody that's looking to sell their house, they're not looking to go with a realtor, they're wanting to do what's called a for sale by owner. A lot of investors will do marketing and specifically say, hey, we are real estate investors and we'll buy your house. Here's the problem with using that term investors is that when your average consumer hears the term investor, they directly relate that to a suit on Wall Street in Manhattan, New York, right? So that's like typically what they picture as an investor. And it's not you that's willing to pay cash, close quickly, buy as is from the seller. That's what they don't look at it that way. So a better thing to do, a better strategy would be to actually reframe and rephrase who you are, which you might just say, hey, we're house buying specialists, or use a term like that. And so that would be better as opposed to saying we're real estate investors. Plus, in addition to that, by using a term like that, that's a lot more technical, that comes across like it's just not like people don't relate to it. And so they don't know what it is. And that's the most important thing when it comes to content marketing is relating to your audience through your content, because people will consume the content only if it's relevant to them. And so you got to make sure that the slang and the term that you're using is relevant to them. Now, let me give you another example. Another example that I like to use all the time is with gyms and workout and health and fitness and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of very technical terms when it comes to exercising, when it comes to working out, when it comes to health and fitness and wellness and all that stuff. So if you own a gym, make sure that you can use those like technicalities and more advanced terms when you're doing your content, whether it's a video or podcast or whatever. But at the end of the day, you got to think about, who is my end consumer? Who's actually watching this? Is this somebody that's brand new that wants to get into my gym and has never joined a gym before? Well, they probably don't know a lot of these terms that we might be saying, like what's a Smith machine? What's a lat pull down or seated row, like stuff like that. They don't know what that is. And so a good idea would be to create content about what a seated row is, or what a lat pull down is, or what a Smith machine is and what it's used for, and that kind of thing. So that's some ideas that I think that people need to really utilize and think about. Like, do people actually know who I am and what I do? So for instance, at the gym, they don't know what a seated row is. They don't know what a lat pull down is. And so you've got to explain that to them. And here's the reality is that the more people understand, the whole term knowledge is power, but knowledge is leverage as well. Because the more that your audience, your potential customers, your potential clientele, the more that they know about you and your industry, the more likely they are to actually pull the trigger on something, right? So if you're a real estate investor and people are looking to sell their house, the best piece of content that you could put out is something explaining what the actual industry that you're in is. So what is a real estate investor? Create a piece of content around what is a real estate investor. A real estate investor is somebody that invests in real estate, which typically means we're going to buy your house as is with cash. We're not getting any bank financing or lending so that we can close quickly. We're going to move you out. You could leave everything behind if you want to. And we're going to take and flip the property and put a renter in or sell it, as a retail house or whatever. So that's what you got to do. You got, and I know that sounds kind of elementary, but at the end of the day, what I tell people is when you're doing your content marketing, you almost have to treat your audience like they are a 4-year-old, not like disrespectfully, but explaining to them the actual situation. Because if you do that, if you do it right, if you do it in a way that's actually educating them and not belittling them or patronizing them, then you will pull a lot of leverage towards you and have a much higher chance of somebody actually converting to what a conversion means for you. So again, wrapping this up, make sure that when you are in your specific industry, you have a product, you have a service, the best thing that you could do is educate people on what it actually is. And that's what you want to do. So like, for instance, again, if you have a backpack company, why is your backpack any different? You need to educate people on that. And most product companies do a really good job of educating people on what the actual product is and why it's different and what it stands for and that kind of stuff. Like that's kind of what they have to do. But at the end of the day, if you're a service provider, that's one thing I think people fall short in when it comes to their marketing is, yeah, we are a CPA company. Okay, what does a CPA mean? Like, what do you cover? Do you do my books? Do you do my tax returns? Do you do, do you send out my 1099s? Like that kind of stuff. Like, what does that actually entail? And so for me as a content creator, I tell people that I create results-driven content marketing. And when they say, what does that mean? Then it's my job, it's my duty to explain to them what that actually means and go even deeper, talking to them almost like they have no clue. They've never even heard of content marketing. So I tell them the benefits. I tell them the benefits of content marketing. I tell them how to leverage it. And I even give them tips on what they should do if they don't move forward with me. So that's kind of how you got to approach content marketing as a whole, especially if you're looking to actually convert, which should be the goal of your content in the first place. So that's what I got for you guys. It's very simple, very easy, more of a philosophical type thing when it comes to content marketing, but it's something that you definitely have to understand, grasp onto, and implement into your content marketing, whether you're doing videos, podcasts, imagery, or email newsletters, postcards, whatever is going out on your content, you have to look at it and dice it up in that manner. And you'll convert people a lot easier because then they'll come to you and say, hey, I know what a real estate investor is now. I know what to expect. So then that makes the first initial phone call or your first walkthrough through the property a whole lot easier because you're not having to explain everything. And like I always say, content marketing is your best salesman because it is awake at all times. It's always going to be up. It's always going to be able to answer people's questions if they have a specific question about the content. Doesn't take breaks, doesn't take holidays, doesn't take weekends off. It doesn't call off it's sick. Like content marketing is your best salesman. And the best thing that you can do is put out content and explaining to people what you do and what your service is all about. In a manner that they've never even heard of it before. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully that made sense and brought some value. And if it did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. And then if you're on the podcast, make sure that you are subscribing to the podcast. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, head over to the review page, leave me a review. I would very much appreciate it. If you have any questions, reach out to me, josh@cullermedia.com. Colored spelled Culler. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about content marketing in general, or if you want me to address a specific topic on this show. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.